townspeople are always having fun. Out there in the garden, in the rain and the sun.
Hi, I'm Wendy Newsome and I'm the chair of the Girrawheen Community Garden. Girrawheen's an Aboriginal word which means place where the flowers grow. Now, the idea of a community garden in Girrawheen started long before I came on board. In fact, it started with a group of seniors from the Girrawheen Club here, approaching Margaret Quirk, who was our state MP at the time, about having a community garden in Girrawheen. And fast forward so much of time, I'm not quite sure how long, but then we heard that the City of Wanneroo had obtained a grant of $50,000 to set up a community garden in Girrawheen. And they put out an expression of interest for people who are interested in the concept of a garden here in Girrawheen to come along to a meeting. So I came along, met other like-minded people, met the person from the council, and had a look to see where the garden was going to be. I'd also heard that Perth City Farm were involved to set up the garden along with members of the community. And so that started out with pop-up information booths in places like the local shopping centres, in the library, at the Girrawheen Lions swap meet, where volunteers, including myself and Emma from Perth City Farm, went along, and we did things like seed planting workshops, children's activities, and collected contact information from people who were interested. But then, of course, COVID hit, and so we had to stop doing everything. And that lasted for about 6 months before we were able to continue again. So again, we set up some more information sessions to refresh people's memory about what we were hoping to do. And then Emma set up some planning sessions for community people. And I think there was about 3 sessions where people could come along and give their opinion what sort of plants they thought should be growing in the garden, and how the garden should look. I had a look at the area, which was behind the library, and it was smaller than I was hoping it was going to be, and also it was used as a walkway from the school, the library, the hub building, seniors, and of course the shopping centre, which is just adjacent. And so we had to take all of that in consideration when we were making our plans for the garden. We were also told that we could take over this garden here, which was originally run by the Lions as a community garden, and they'd run it in the past but had stopped running it due to things like there was some problems with stealing and vandalism and that sort of thing. So that was great because I knew in this area here that we could have things like compost bays, compost bins, and a worm farm, and also the little pond that we've got. So looking at the new garden, which we call the front garden, we knew that the best thing to do, because we needed to have a pathway that linked all the areas. So we thought the best thing to do would be to have raised beds either side of the garden, either side of the path, sorry, so that it was easy for people to walk to wherever they were getting to, but they could still see and pick the plants that were there. And also we decided on a little Australian native garden area there too. A committee was formed, of which I was the vice chair, and our first major hurdle occurred when we were planning a busy bee in the old Lions garden, while we were waiting for the front garden to be started. We were told by the council that we needed to have insurance for any people to take part in a busy bee, and that we were not covered by their volunteer insurance. As a new organisation, we had no money, for the insurance. And so we asked the council if they would consider paying for our first year's insurance, which came to roughly $180, which included our affiliation fee with Garden Clubs Australia, which was recommended to us by another community garden and was one of the lowest that we found around. The council declined to pay for that insurance, stating it would set a precedent with other community gardens in the council area. And the only way we could get around this was for members to pay for the insurance themselves, which is what happened. And once they had the insurance, we were able to start working in the back garden and getting rid of all the weeds and starting planting out the garden beds. There were some minor hiccups along the way. Our chair resigned due to family and work commitments, and there was a problem with the subcontractor hired by Perth City Farm to work on the front garden. But we managed to get the garden completed in 38-degree heat on the 18th of December 2020. We had been allocated a community support officer by the city to help us get started, and he proved to be of great assistance in setting up all our paperwork for the committee, such as the constitution that we needed, and assisting with our application for incorporation, which was completed in March 2021. Unfortunately, he left in May 2021, and since then we've had 3 different community support officers, which doesn't help with the continuity. Our official opening was held in February 2021 in conjunction with the City of Wanneroo, and was a wonderful event that was very well attended by local dignitaries and other interested parties, and of course members of the community. Our outgoing State MP Margaret Quirk gifted us a beautiful bay tree, and it was a very colourful event with an African drumming group and a DJ providing some excellent entertainment. Since opening, the garden has been provided the backdrop for several events, including workshops organised by the library on subjects such as water-wise garden, composting, worm farming. And produce from the garden was also used in a series of cooking classes at the hub run by Food Bank. The garden was also used in a 7-week sustainability course organised by the library and run by Shani Graham from Ecoburbia. Celebrate Girrawheen was an event organised by the City of Wanneroo on the 13th of November 2021, and the garden was at the centre of the day's events, holding a seed planting activity for children, composting workshops, and also a raffle. The garden also provided a backdrop for many photographs taken on the day, and Celebrate Girrawheen was a huge success, and I look forward to having many other events like this being held in the garden. Just a word or two about our lease. When the garden was handed over to the committee in December 2020, we were operating under a Memorandum of Understanding, which was a basic document that said we had to have a suitable insurance policy to let the city know of any problems such as vandalism, and to be responsible for the maintenance of the area. In October 2021, we were told that we needed to sign a lease, and a 37-page document full of legal terminology was sent to us. We could see that many of the points did not apply to us, not being a business, but a volunteer organisation. And since then, there's been several copies of the drafts sent backwards and forwards, all which need to be read through very carefully. Part of the problem is because the garden is in 2 parts, and one part is fenced off while the other part is open and accessible to anybody. And apparently, as far as the lease is concerned, the garden needs to be treated differently for each part. At one stage, we were asked if we had any signage, and we said that we had a teardrop banner that was gifted to us by the mayor after the open day. And we use this whenever we have a busy bee, or we have something like a stall at the local swap meet. We were told it had to be approved by the planning department of the council, and we needed to fill in additional paperwork and pay a fee. So I decided to contact our local councillor, Betrebe, for his help. And within a week, we had an email to say that they had reviewed the situation and we no longer had to get approval. And use of the banner has been written into the latest draft of the lease. As far as water use is concerned, we're extremely lucky. We do not have to pay for any water use. All the garden beds in both garden areas, except a couple of the wicking beds, have drip reticulation installed, as do the areas in between the beds in the front garden. The city has a private bore in the area where the water comes from, and we also have a large water tank in the back garden for hand watering. We're also lucky to have a secure area at the end of the hub building, which is behind the roller door, for storing our tools and equipment. And this also has a power point, so we can boil a kettle when we have our busy bees, so we can have a cuppa. In the first year of the garden, we've been lucky enough to receive donations from organisations such as the Wanneroo Men's Shed, the Girrawheen Lions Club, the New Park branch of the Commonwealth Bank, which sadly was closed in April this year, and Bunnings Malaga. Our main fundraising comes from stalls held every 6 months or so at the Lions Swap Meet at our local shopping centre, and we sell donated household bric-a-brac and plants. We made $570 at our last stall. Our other fundraising effort is for Containers for Change, and for that we get about $70 a month for the cans and containers that we collect. Our membership fees are very low. It's $15 for a family, $10 for a single, $10 for a family concession and $5 for a single concession. So we don't actually make a lot from our membership fees. In conclusion, I'd like to say that the setting up of the garden has been mainly a positive experience, and on a personal level, I've felt that I've become more engaged in my local community and met many friends through the garden. The way the garden came into being is not common, and I think it has been and still is a learning experience for both the garden committee and the City of Wanneroo staff. In the future, there are plans for redevelopment of the whole hub precinct, and it will be interesting to see how the garden fits into these plans. Just to finish, I'd just like to acknowledge the former Mayor, Tracy Roberts, local councillors Brett Treby and James Rowe, our former and current state members of Parliament, Margaret Quirk and Meredith Hammett, Emma Slavin and Perth City Farm, the Girrawheen Lions Club, Wanneroo Men's Shed, and City of Wanneroo staff for assistance in helping to set up the garden and to keep it going. Of course, thanks also go to the garden members, because without them there wouldn't be a garden. Thanks very much.
Brighten up there.